So I wanted to create another short follow-up piece to last week's video. If you guys have not watched that yet, then click right up here and you guys can give that a watch. In that video, I tell you 10 tools that you guys will need to successfully convert your camper van. In today's video, I'm going to give you guys 5 tips for perfecting your camper van conversion. So really what this video is going to be a series of questions and thought processes you should have during your camper van build if you want to be able to maximize the potential of your build and make sure that it turns out the way that you want it to turn out. So let's jump into the first question that you need to ask yourself, and that is, what is the purpose of converting your van?
So some of the key questions you need to ask yourself is, what are you hoping that this recreational asset, as I will call it for right now, what do you want it to solve for you? For example, if you are just planning on taking weekend trips down to the beach, well, that opens up a different type of vehicle class for you rather than those looking to maybe do overlanding up in the mountains. Same goes for if you are looking to be completely off of the grid, or maybe you're actually looking to live in this full time. Making sure that you have a clear definition at the beginning will help guide all of your decision-making processes throughout your build.
So since you answered the question of what is the purpose of your travel, the second question you guys need to ask yourself is, what are my core needs, or what are my base needs?
Your base needs, those are going to be the defining factors moving forward time. So anytime you have a sticky point come up in your build, you're going to fall back on this. Think of it like a business. A business sets a mission and a vision statement, and this mission and vision statement is designed to drive all of the decisions making processes for that business moving forward. So anytime something came up, like a policy change or maybe shifting product lines or whatever, you're always going to fall back on that mission and vision. So for me, being out on the road, I need a lot of power. I charge a lot of equipment, and that is really the main reason for me to travel, is my photography and my video. Having a battery bank that can both support my livable needs as well as my professional needs was imperative. That is why I decided to build a 600 amp hour battery bank. When it came down to compromises, which you're gonna find during your van build, you're gonna have to compromise. It's just a tiny space. It just is the nature of the game. But when those compromises came, I was able to use these needs to actually help me make a compromise that in the end, I would still be happy with the overall layout and the overall build.
Now that you've defined those base needs, it's time to start planning your build, and the best way to plan your build is to build out from those base needs.
Your clearly defined needs are going to essentially set how much power and how much water you need on board. So the best thing to do from there is to then design out from those core elements. You will typically see people make the power area and the water area either benches or even just the bed platform itself. And the reason is these core elements, they're really going to take up a lot of real estate, but you can be creative with how you build around them. But going back to the last point, if you don't clearly define, let's say, how much power you need, well, that's going to drastically alter how much space is being taken up by that core element. So you might actually be able to do more, fit more if you do less power, or if you do a small water tank. I mean, I'm kind of beating a dead horse right there. You should kind of get it by this point, hopefully. The other big point that you need to know is that you are typically going to have water and power over one of the wheel wells. So the first thing you need to consider is what side you're going to put that on. This is important because the rest of your build should follow that same mindset. So for example, in our van, the water is over the passenger side. So everything water related is on the passenger side of the van. Power side is pretty much everything's on the same power side. Now, yes, there is other electrical runs that happen. Electrical is usually a little bit easier to get across, but the main power consumers are induction cooktop, our refrigerator, the way that our alternator charging wires are run, the way that our solar wires are run. They're all on the same side. So that makes maintenance easy, and it also makes making all of the runs a lot easier. And one more little thing you need to think about is you actually have a weight that you have to meet, which is called the gross vehicle weight. Now, if you need 35 gallons worth of water, but only need a certain amount of power, well, you might put that water on one side and maybe make it on the opposite side of all your cabinetry and all your other weight, so that way your vehicle is more balanced.
The fourth tip I can give you guys to help you maximize your camper van conversion is to plan in phases and to source your products.
when you're starting to plan out your phases, you need to make sure that you have your product sourced. So the reason I'm in this little nook here is this little pop out here was supposed to be a Flarespace flare, but it's actually now a Vanspeed capsule. And the reason is I bought the Flarespace flares and it took me almost 4 to 5 months to get that flare. We were able to go on to other phases of the build and we kind of built to this point, but it definitely did slow down production. So what I would recommend is lay out an ideal building phase and then make sure you have your products sourced. If you can't get products in time for that phase, look how maybe you could jump to another phase or pivot around that area of that phase. But in the end, you definitely need the phases of construction, because you'll find yourself redoing work or doing double work or having to undo something that you've already done because you didn't fully see how all the Lego pieces came together. So come up with phases, source your products so that all your measurements are good, and clearly understand that if you run into product delays, how can you build to that point without getting in the way and without having to redo your work? Pivoting is going to be key in your build. So when we put these Vanspeed capsules in, we actually ended up having a little bit of a gap between the roof and the trim pieces that came with these. And the reason is the roof and everything was designed around the Flarespace. So when these capsules went in, we actually then had to pivot to come up with a way to cover those gaps, which is why we put cabinets over the passenger side as well as the driver's side. If you guys watched my build series, you remember from the planning phase that I talked about only cabinets over the driver's side, and unfortunately we did have to just put cabinets over there. Added to storage and also did a nice job of covering up a wire run. So,
and the last piece to this is measure, measure, test fit, measure, test fit again, measure again, go to bed, come back, measure again, and then finally install it.
You're gonna find yourself having to measure a lot and double check your measurements. In a tight space, being off by just a little bit, and we're talking 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, it's going to affect the overall layout down the road. So make sure that you are checking your measurements and double checking and triple checking, and then test fit things. You don't wanna run into a situation where something really isn't gonna lay out. Let's say you don't wanna put your cabinet in and have a drawer smacking the other cabinet, or you don't wanna have a ton of wasted space because of how you laid something out. So make sure that you guys double check your measurements, test fit things. And that's why I also recommended in my walkthrough video to take a second and tape everything out. Take those measurements, take your drawings, tape it all out, walk around and see how it feels on the ground, so that way you know that the layout is good.
Well, that's all I have for you guys today. If you guys enjoyed the video, then please consider hitting the subscribe button down below. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new, or if I just provided some entertainment value for you, or if neither of those and you just want to give me a thumbs up, then sweet. It does help the algorithm and helps promote my content. Also, I have links down below to all of the products that we used on our van, as well as some of the tools that I used to build the van. Disclaimer, these are all affiliate links, so any purchase you make using those links, a small portion will be kicked back to me as a commission. There's no extra cost to you, but this is just a great way to support the channel if that you feel like you want to support the content I'm creating. For those of you that are new here, I create content based around travel, outdoor photography, and filmmaking. So if you guys enjoyed that kind of stuff, then again, I would consider hitting the subscribe button. That's all I have for you guys today. I will see you guys in next week's video. Peace out.